Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching this weekly Ag Weather Update brought to you by the Farm Credit Associations of North Carolina. Well, so far in the month of April, the weather patterns that we've been dealing with here have featured a very strong and elongated and very zonal, meaning west to east flowing Pacific jet stream. So you can see that piece right in through here. So you're looking at winds at the jet stream level compared to average. Now, the important part about this is that it's influenced largely by La Nina, and much of our pattern all the way over here in North Carolina has been governed by what's happening in the Pacific. Across parts of the North Atlantic, we have seen, anomalously strong lower pressure in places, but nothing like what we've seen over here in the Pacific with the behavior of this jet stream. Now, let's look nationally for just a second on the impacts of this. It's delivered moisture to Northern California, Oregon, and Washington, three places, especially Oregon and Oregon and Northern California, that have been deep into drought. But given the placement, notice it's not getting down here into Southern California. It's not getting into the Four Corner states. And as the flow comes right over the top of the Rockies, you get an enhanced rain shadow effect. Notice how dry things have been in the plains, continuing to make the drought stress in that area just getting worse and worse. We've had very tight windows in the eastern Corn Belt. In other words, we just really haven't planted much in parts of the I-states, getting over into Ohio. And very wet weather in New England's caused problems as well. The severe weather we've seen throughout the Mid-South and the South, getting over to South Carolina, has been well above average. And of course, this past weekend, during Easter weekend, we saw major severe weather once again into this area. My point here being that this has been a pattern that has been just relentless on making what we have been seeing for a while just worse. You know what I'm saying? It's been in kind of this repeat mode. And that also includes a major blizzard that did hit parts of the northern plains. And they got another one coming into this area very soon. Now take a look. When you get right over here into this part of North Carolina, Virginia, there has been a few pockets that have been drier in through this area given this setup. So the pattern across the east and southeast has been just quite dramatic, going from some drier pockets to some places that have been exceptionally wet as of late. Now, in terms of temperatures, and this is going to be a very important discussion we're going to have at the end of this video, we've not yet fully broken away to warm conditions. So going from March 20th through April 17th, we have favored more colder days than warmer days. And just to show you, look back through parts of the Midwest, getting into the northern plains. This has been an area that, we just have had too much precip at times. It's been too dry to the west, and there's been frequent shots at colder air, which just means that the spring planting progress in 2022 has not been rapid. Now, what I'd like to do, as you know, is to cover the long range first. So where are we going with all of this? It all comes back to a discussion about La Nina. Now, unlike what we thought we saw back at the end of winter, which was a fading La Nina through spring, it's not done that. It's not been the case. The trade winds have strengthened, and those trade winds run right into this area. And as a result, we've had more upwelling. And as of late, over here in what we call Nina Region 1+2, this area has seen a drop in ocean temperatures back into La Nina-like behavior. We've just maintained, you see it here? We've maintained the colder ocean temperatures in the Central Pacific. We have what's called the negative PDO signal. That's the cold water that's in the Gulf of Alaska and off the west coast of North America, with the warm water out here just to the south of the Aleutian Islands. And generally speaking, other than the normal turbulence we get along the Gulf Stream, much of the North Atlantic is still measuring warm. So what we need to do with this is kind of distill all of this down, saying if this continues, what would that mean for the rest of April and into the month of May? That's the question we have to ask, because these ocean temperature patterns, which are the symptom of the wind pattern, are keeping the MJO away from the Pacific Ocean. They're resetting it back into the Indian Ocean. It's keeping the jet stream quite zonal and very fast. And so we need to see what that means, because right now, when you think about what that La Nina is doing, the Southern Oscillation Index, which is just a measure of the pressure difference between Tahiti in the middle of the Pacific and Darwin in northern Australia, it has been well above the threshold of 7. That's the threshold for being considered La Nina. Look at this. It's way up here in the 14 to 15 range. So that index value, very high. So that tells me those trade winds are really just behaving very much like La Nina. And it's the momentum transfer. It's the trade winds which kind of bore the heat and momentum out of the tropics, which ultimately influences our jet stream. That's what I want to talk about. So with La Nina conditions still pushing hard here, we know this. That Southern Oscillation Index is positive, right? So if you correlate, going back to 1948 to 2020, the Southern Oscillation Index with April into May precipitation. The blues would represent where it's going to be drier. That's a negative correlation. And the red colors would represent where it's going to be wetter. So what we generally see here, right, is this area tends to favor drier conditions, exactly where they have been as this La Nina has taken off. See that? And that's a long-standing problem there. Where's it going to be wetter? Well, here, where we've got yet another big blizzard coming through later this week. And look at the eastern half of the, well, eastern third of the country. We do see that there's a positive correlation. So it should come at no surprise when you see this graphic, knowing that La Nina seems to be our most dominant weather factor right now, that the new outlook for May looks something like that. So what do we continue to see? Drier conditions throughout much of California, Four Corner states, plains. Wetter conditions from the northern plains into the upper Midwest, along the Mississippi Basin and east. So that means we could continue to see what we have been seeing this spring going forward. Now we'll get a brand new update of this tonight, all right? And in the near term, while we see wet weather for us, there's also better precipitation for California still coming in. But it's the longer term outlook that I'm most concerned about. And we got some brand new data this weekend for that, and I'd like to show it to you. So at Columbia University, they have a sub-seasonal to seasonal weather forecast center. And one of the things they do with their weather forecasting models is once we get all of the long-range data in from the deterministic models, we then can go in and do some probabilistic statistics on it. So that's what they do. And what you're looking at here is their long-range forecast for May, June, July on global precipitation anomalies. I just want to point out a couple things before we zoom in on North America. In and around the Black Sea, right in through here, there's a lot of wheat grown in there and other crops. There's risk of drier conditions. Indonesia, Australia, that La Nina just continues to produce a lot of rising motion here, which suggests that we're going to have much above average precipitation as they go into later fall and winter. South America, we'll talk more about South America at the end of the video, but can I just show you what's going on in North America? That May, June, July precipitation forecast continues the drought risk in the plains, but then develops it into the Intermountain West, continues to make it worse into this region. Now, no strong signal for North Carolina at this point through early spring, and that's because the La Nina being the more dominant factor would suggest that we would not struggle with drought development during that time period. Doesn't mean it can't happen regionally, but it's just not a longer term signal. What is interesting is to see the temperature pattern for May, June, and July. Much above average west, closer to normal here. So we're going to talk about how we slide into these temperatures going forward, but I wanted to keep you aware of some of this new long-range data because we've now looked at the European first, the NMME second, and now the IRI multi-model group. And I expect NOAA to release their forecast early this week, so we'll include that in next week's video. Okay, that high momentum Pacific jet is seen here. And until this becomes blocked up or changes its position, we're going to be kind of on this wash, rinse, repeat pattern. Now let's talk about it. Because this morning we did have some heavy rainfall moving through, and you can see that most of the lightning from the storms is off the coast. But the heavy precip that's been moving through our area has been pretty well forecast here. So let's just start off with the high-res models, and we're going to start, this is Monday, early in Monday morning before I sent this out to you. But as we go through the day today, just very wet conditions throughout the middle of the day today into this evening. See that? Well, that's a part of a larger system curling up out of the Great Lakes into New England, which is going to deliver quite a bit of snow into parts of New England. There might be a swath in through here, through Pennsylvania, New York, 6+ inches of snow. Very wet, but that's what's coming in. And you can see the cold air coming in behind this. But it's not going to last long, okay? And that's because by Wednesday, high pressure builds in, temperatures start to rebound, and the next round of wet weather moves into the Midwest. Through this entire time period, though, we keep loading up the Pacific with more moisture. I want to take it from here over to the European to show you where this is all going to go. So here we are picking up Wednesday, middle of the day. We're under high pressure. System goes through the Canadian prairie, drags yet another front through the Midwest, slowing this region down for planting. Now what happens is by Thursday, getting into the Friday, that first system moves in way up here into like Quebec, but doesn't have enough like oomph. The front just kind of phases away. It's not very strong, and as a result, we don't get the precipitation out of it late week. There's a chance Thursday night into Friday of some showers, but right now the pressure difference is too weak to give us a strong front that could really lift that air. What instead happens, high pressure builds back in, and this deep trough spins into the west. And as it does so, it ejects into the plains. Now look at this. Large dry slot in this, which means the drought issues in Nebraska, eastern South Dakota, back to Colorado, Kansas, the panhandles, that's not going anywhere. And the drought issues right now in and around, especially the Texas panhandle where we grow a lot of cotton, is serious. It's gotten deeper and deeper. Look at the snow, though, from Montana and North Dakota. Well, that system goes up. We're going to have to watch out for severe storm risk here over the weekend. And then that storm system could possibly stall out a front, right here through the heart of the Corn Belt back into Texas. And if this does manifest early next week, this is no good. This is going to continue the shutdown of field progress in this area. Notice we've stayed under mostly high pressure. So when does that moisture get to us? Maybe middle of next week. So most of the rainfall that we're going to see here comes today. There it is. So this system coming over today could put down anywhere between 3/4 of an inch and up to 2 inches of rainfall. Now watch, I just keep playing forward. Nothing really gets added. See that? Through Friday, into Saturday, Sunday. Do you notice it now picking up? There it is. That's the next front, next Tuesday, Wednesday. So other than the precipitation today, we're going to see much lower chances of precipitation going forward. But this pattern is not blocked. Take a look. This is this next Saturday. So this is that deep trough producing that big storm system that's going to drag it front through us on Tuesday. The ridge out ahead of it, though, big warm up for us. As we go forward, when I say it's not blocked, it means these troughs are moving. And what I'm getting concerned about is after next Tuesday, when that trough goes to the Great Lakes and drags a front through it, watch what the height pattern does. That all the way out to the end of April, beginning of May, that's the wrong setup. I mean, that's cold air. And this is what we seem to not be able to break away from. We just continue to see that colder air. Now, why this is so important is I just went out and looked at this. I'm like, what would it take to really just fully break away into a warm May pattern? So for North Carolina, I reconstructed the temperature pattern going back to 1970. And overall, we've seen a warming in the month of May in general, but we still have a lot of volatility. I went and ranked these warmest to coldest, and you wouldn't be surprised to see this, right? In order for us to just break away into a fully warm pattern, you got to block up the Gulf of Alaska, get a big ridge there. So we get a trough in the west and a large ridge that sets up basically over Pennsylvania. And in that case, we go over warm. Well, what I just showed you is, whoops, sorry, let's try that again. We don't see that. There's a trough in this area, and therefore it's going to be cooler. We haven't yet really just broken off into that warm pattern. So that's why when we look out here and say, well, what's our frost risk look like over the next 7 days? Well, you can see here that Virginia, the western and northern parts of North Carolina back to the mountains, has continued frost risk. And it's probably going to show up once again at the beginning of May, should this pattern pan out the way the models suggest. So let's talk about temperatures as we wrap this one up. There's Monday's highs. Yeah, it's quite cold now. Tuesday, the same thing. Wednesday, still cold. But what did I show you? By Thursday, we start to see this rebound. Look, 74 in Raleigh. Now you see the warm sector opening up ahead of this. There's Friday's temperatures in almost 80. Saturday's really warm. Sunday's really warm. So you see you're going to start the week off brutally cold and finish it very warm. So we could see up to a 40-degree swing in temperatures this week. But as we noticed, the colder air, day 5 through 10, is setting up here. And then day 10 through 15 pushes through our region, dropping our temperatures back off again, 4 to maybe 8 degrees colder than normal at times. Now, how strong has this signal been? Well, the European picked up on it a while ago, but we need to just keep an eye on it to see the duration and how far to the south that frost line gets. I cannot give you specifics just yet on that. It's just too far out. It's at the very end of April and the beginning of May, but I'll keep you posted. Now, one last thing to talk about, South America. Over this last month, we have seen regional drought issues hitting parts of the safrinha crop right in through here. You can see what we're talking about. At first, it only hit about 25% of the safrinha crop, but as of late, it's moved into parts of Mato Grosso. And over the next 15 days, that whole region is forecast to stay drier than normal. In fact, we're not expecting any precipitation into this area. That's going to really limit the potential of this safrinha crop. And this might be important because the monsoon normally ends in May anyways. So this is going to be an issue that we're going to need to watch carefully, because up until this point, we only had a small percentage of the crop that was at risk. And now we're seeing that some of it might finish under quite dry conditions. I'll keep you posted. I'll give you another video next Monday. Till then, have a good rest of your week. Thank you.